Welcome, welcome. Come on in. Fletta,
Hey,
good to see
Rhonda.
you. Hey, Rhonda. Hello. Great to see you. Roxanne, hi. Hello,
Hey,
hello.
Laura. Rhonda. Hey.
Long
Hey,
time
long
no
time no
see.
see.
Yeah,
Right,
how are
you guys know each
you?
other.
Yeah, we do. We do. Wow, it's been a while. Hey.
Awesome. Madalena, it's very
So
nice
good
to
to see
meet
you.
you. Welcome.
Madalena.
Oh,
Hey,
thank you for
Madalena.
having me. Hi.
Hello. Hello, everybody
Excellent.
else.
Who else do we have? We have Summer and Sahira. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
It'd be great if you can put your camera on. We would love that to see your beautiful faces. That would be wonderful. Obviously, you don't have to. Nothing is a must here, but it would be nice to see you. All right. So yeah, I will welcome people in as they're coming in. I'll welcome people in as they come in. Before we get started, let me turn my music off here. Excellent. Yeah, I am excited. Actually, let me pause one moment because we have one more person who just come in. Like, I want to make sure she hears it from the very first word. Hey. Excellent. Oh, there we go. Okay, Micah, I saw you just joined as well. Welcome, welcome. I was just about to say the first word and I'm like, oh, Micah is just coming in. I'm gonna wait until she's here. If you can, and if you're in a position to put your camera on, that will be wonderful. So there we go. Beautiful. Hi. Well, welcome, welcome. So I'm excited for all of you to be here. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces, meet some new people. People I haven't seen in literally a decade, Roxanne, I think. That's very true.
Yes.
So yeah, so we're hosting these insight exchange sessions on a regular basis because we um we love them. And I want to remind everybody, oh, wonderful to see you, Summer. I want to remind everybody, these are not passive webinars, right? They are really intended to be an exchange, hence the name, because it's nice for you to participate, to meet each other as well, and learn from each other, because you're all smart women here. And we all have our own perspectives and experiences, and we come together from similar but different industries and with different backgrounds. And these sessions are intended to be learningful for everybody. So I do want to manage, before we dive in, I want to manage expectations. This is not a master class, right? Sarah, welcome. This is not a master class on today's topic. So while we are giving specific strategies, applicable strategies that you are more than welcome to take home and apply, we're not going to dive deep. So I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on that ahead of time. It's really intended as an impulse for you, as some food for thought, to expand the work that you're probably already doing. I would be very surprised if anybody of you be like, I've never heard of this that you're sharing. I would really be surprised. But it is intended to be as an impulse to expand on what you're already doing. And I do think that and hope that there will be one or the other nugget in there that gives you additional ways to consider to bring into the work that you do. So with that said, let's dive in. I have a few slides that I want to share just to help us along the conversation. So today we are going to talk about the 3 proven strategies that prevent and or even reverse resistance. And because that is the main reason why high stakes initiatives or mission critical initiatives fail. And that's why we're focused on that today. So I want to share a little bit about myself, my company. We exist to help organizations successfully execute reorganizations or any mission critical change initiatives where it's important to bring your teams along. And as I said, actually I didn't say that. It's not going to be theory. It's really going to be, we're sharing like what we do with our clients to give you some some insight. Before we dive in, I would love to take a moment to just reflect, because the reality is you have a million things on your to-do list. You have other competing priorities. I know some of you are here because your boss highly recommended that you would be here, but there are other reasons. And I'm going to put on a little bit of music, and I want to give you a moment to reflect on why it is important for you to be here, to learn about preventing resistance. Why is it important for you, your team, your organization overall, and maybe even those you serve? And you're welcome, let me turn that music on. You're welcome to answer that question in any way you want, whether it is on one of these levels, whether it's on all three, all four of these levels. Just take a moment to answer that question for yourself. Why is it important for you to be here, to learn about preventing or reversing resistance? Why is it important for you, your team, your organization, and maybe even those you serve? Few more seconds. And then we do have time to hear from 2 or 3 of you. Nobody has to share. Nothing here is mandatory, as I said before, but also it's exactly one of these times where we want to learn from each other. So why is it important for you to be here? And I will open the floor and hand it over to you before we get into more of the meat. Love to hear from 1, 2, 3 of you. And also feel free to put it in the chat if you don't want to share live. That's an option. Rhonda, please.
I can go. When I saw the topic come across, I think it's really important, whether we work as a team or serve whoever your customers are, is to understand what may be the potential for resistance, try to understand it and maybe even preempt it or build it in to whatever plan that you have, and build in time to bring people on side. So I think from my perspective is learning, understanding, and able to communicate it in advance so that things go more efficiently or smoothly or whatever that is that you're trying to do. Because I've been on both sides, right? Whether you're trying to be implementing change or, you know, receiving the implementation, it would be great to have those kind of before thought been to be addressed. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thank you, Rhonda. Madalena.
Yeah, hi everyone. So in fact, I've been asking myself, why am I going to attend this session? Roxanne invited me at the beginning of the week. And I was like, okay, why is this important to me? And to be honest, and very clear, is this organizational change ever successful? This is the question, because I've experienced it at least 3 times firsthand. More recently with Roche, I was consulting for them for 5 years, and they went through an organizational change, and it was a complete failure. How is this possible for such a company with so many resources? And after 3 years of struggle, they are reorganizing again. So I'm just wondering, like, is there any success story there? Because I would love to hear one. Thank you.
Thank you, Madalena, for sharing that perspective. Yeah, well,
also say maybe something regarding Roxanne here, sorry.
Yes, please.
For me, resistance is more in the terms of project management, working with cross-functional teams. You know, how do you actually, as opposed to looking at it from resistance, is like, how do you bring people on board? You know, looking at it from the other, you know, how do you avoid resistance? How do you get people's buy-in when you have to align them against around a common goal, a common strategy, with their own different market dynamics and you know, priorities to an extent? It's more like, how do you actually avoid resistance? How do you build goodwill, collaboration, and buy-in before you potentially hit that resistance, you know, so you never come to the point that you actually encounter resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, it's probably not possible to not ever hit resistance, right? And I have to completely be honest, like even the title of this webinar today, when I say prevent resistance, I mean, of course, that's a little bit of clickbait, because otherwise, like, well, why do you even show up? But it is definitely, we can minimize it by also around the side, right? How do we think about it ahead of time, and what are the things that we can do? So let's dive in and see how we can come to this conundrum, or like find some solution for it. So before we dive in, I want to set the context to understand more about what resistance is before we dive deeper into that topic. So yes, you can see my slide. Excellent. So right now, the world is changing rapidly, right? And it's not slowing down. In fact, it continues to accelerate. And whether you think about what's happening with AI or politics or global warming, there is a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. So this rate of change is accelerating. It's steep. And our ability as human beings to adapt to that rate of change, well, that curve is flatter, right? So we are here right now. That means there is a gap between the rate of change and our ability to adapt to it. Now, add any additional changes within an organization, and you're making that curve even steeper, and therefore the gap even bigger between our ability as human beings to adapt to change and uncertainty. And the reason for that is because our brains are built for safety, not for speed. I don't know if anybody is familiar or has ever heard of the triune brain. It's a model, a very simplified model behind neuroscience, introduced by Paul MacLean in the 1960s. And we can obviously all agree that we know a lot more about neuroscience since the 1960s, and our brain is a lot more complex than the 3 layers that Paul MacLean is introducing in terms of the brain. But it works great as the model, in fact, because it simplifies something that is highly complex. And he explains it from the point that our brain has these 3 layers. It starts down here with the reptilian brain. And the function of that is really survival, instinct, but also our habits, our programming, right? So that we can act fast when danger arises. We are ready to fight or flight for our life. That's basically the focus of the focus of this reptilian brain. Then here in the middle, we have the limbic system, and that focuses on emotions, also belonging, motivation. That was developed after after the reptilian brain. And then up here we have the neocortex. That's the latest development of our brain, right? That's where specifically the prefrontal cortex is, which is the CEO of our brain. Like that's where all our executive functions are housed. That is where we make decisions, where we can problem solve, where we can be creative. That's also where we, like our language center sits, like where we also self-regulate. Now, when we're constantly exposed to stress, change, uncertainty, these two centers, they spike and they take over and put our prefrontal cortex offline. That means we're not able to think clearly. We're not able to rationalize things. And that's really the basis for when resistance shows up. So what is resistance, right? In its simplest form, it's energy put towards preserving the status quo. We have a status quo bias. We want things to be predictable because our minds, our brains are meaning-making machines. We want to know what's going to happen. If not, we have to come up with a plan B to secure our survival. So resistance, it's not a character flaw, right? It's really just a natural way of protecting ourselves. And for leader, it's really important to understand that and stop treating resistance as defiance from people and rather start seeing it as a signal that something is happening when they see resistance. Which the next question that is back is, what does resistance look like in the environment? And in fact, I want to actually ask you that question. What does resistance look like? And Eileen is going to put a poll into our Zoom. You should have seen like a little sign that pops up, says join. That is going to show you 9 different ways. And the invitation is you have 3, you'll get 3 choices, if you will, to choose what resistance look like from your end. And you should be able to see those 9 different options. Do you see that if you click on the join button? Okay, awesome. So again, I'm going to play a little bit of music to give you some time to consider that. You don't have to like click on the button right away. And also let me give you a little bit more detail about what these are, right? So silence or withdrawal is really could look like as disengagement, not speaking up, potentially also missing, like avoiding meetings. Active pushback, on the other hand, is like arguing, questioning motives, lobbying against a change. Surface compliance is like, oh, I'm doing the bare minimum and I follow the instructions to a T, but I'm not going to go above and beyond. I'm not going to do a single thing more. Delay tactics or procrastination, like slow walking tasks or missing deadlines. Absenteeism is increased sick days, people being physically present, but actually like mentally absent. Apathy, low energy, indifference, going through the motions, or undermining behaviors or gossip, like clique forming, subtle sabotage. And if there are any others you feel that resistance looks like, feel free to put them in the chat as well. We can capture them here. All right. So we're seeing silence, withdrawal. Active pushback is the biggest one. Undermining behaviors. So those 3 win the race. Interesting. The reality is actually all of them. And for sure, there are more. And I would love to just open it up for a brief discussion. Is there anything surprising about this, like the way that we're introducing what resistance looked like? Anything you're surprised by? Anything you think is missing? Love to just again, open it up a little bit for
Then
discussion.
maybe paralysis. Paralysis is something as well that could be added. Paralysis in the sense that, you know, there's such a like clarity and such a unclear direction sometimes regarding changes, or, you know, changes that take longer than planned to see come into fruition, that people do not know what to do, right?
100%.
What direction to go, you know. So paralysis in terms of not knowing what to do, and therefore you do not do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
And maybe just to add to that, then you just go on and do random other things, right? So I was just thinking about starting with myself when there are moments where I feel, okay, I'm not really sure what should I do next now, and then suddenly I find myself like doing something else on my mobile and switching through the LinkedIn feed. Things like we all know that, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the brain takes over and does, okay, just do something that feels good now. And
100%. Yeah. Getting outside of that, like so much discomfort. Let me do something that feels good, that feels safe. Absolutely. Yeah. Madalena.
Yeah, I was wondering, I'm not surprised with the active pushback, but I'm wondering like what's behind this. In my experience, people want to do the change, but they have different solutions. So I'm just curious to hear like what's behind this, like why they're pushing back.
Yes. So I can, Zara, go ahead. Actually, let me say before that, I cannot specifically answer that question, why individuals push back specifically about that, but it was a great layup for where we're going next, because there are reasons why people show resistance in general. Sarah, please go ahead.
Oh, about the active pushback, I was just thinking because maybe people aren't happy with a certain change. Like, for example, there was a change in my company where a group of people just went under like a different leader, and then another leader had left, and they just really liked the leader who had left. And there was just a lot of, not disdain for that person, but just grumblings. I think it kind of goes like negative emotions and active pushback almost go together, because you know, I think giving the like negative feedback about how unhappy they are with the change is what I've seen when I see active pushback, because not everyone is going to be happy about every change that happens.
Absolutely. Yep. Seta.
Real quick. So I think there's also the resistance to changes, because usually the resistance is unanswered questions. What Madalena said is that people have different solutions. So it's oftentimes people are pushing back because they start with maybe they don't have enough information. It starts with information, then they start thinking, how is it going to impact me? So it becomes the personal implications. Then they get into the implementation. So really, like when we get into the implementation, oftentimes people maybe use this as like, well, we have different solutions. We're not sure how it's going to work, but like the first two things, which are actually impacting them personally, are really the kind of the first Maslow theorem of the change management. And I think if these are not addressed, then no matter what solutions you will find them, like cognitively, people will still fighting, like coming back to your brain model, they will be still in their survival mode, like how's it going to affect me? So I think that's also what I wanted to bring in.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So let's look at why people resist, and then we're also going to get into obviously what to do about it, because really that's why you're here. that's why you've accepted the invitation. So people resist. There are 5 predictable drivers, right? That they come up in research. So the first one being a perceived negative impact, because we have that status quo bias, right? We believe what we currently have, that is great. And as soon as something changes, for sure, it's not going to be as good. We don't like that. So the second one is fear of the unknown. right? That is, as I said before, like our brains are predictability machines. Like we want to know certainty. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to know like why people make decisions. Like we want to know all of these things. Otherwise, that drives resistance. The third one being loss of control. That goes against our sense of I want to be in control of the events. I want to know what's happening. I want to, like, we're all individual beings, right? We want to have that sense of autonomy. And what happens often with change, it feels like change is done to me. And when that happens, that elicits that loss of control and that breeds resistance. Fourth being inadequate trust or communication. People often they doubt the message or the messenger, right? That they feel like, well, we've seen this before, or that's happened before. I cannot trust it. I cannot trust it. And then also the fifth one is different assessment. And that often plays into managers and leaders have a different view than employees of when they assess risks and reward. They take a different perspective on that. So the good news is that resistance is not irrational, right? And it is predictable. So it has root causes and they can be addressed. And that's what we want to get into next, because there are three levers and that we do. That's what we focus on. And each of them has a strategy that goes with it. The first strategy being communication, whether that is written communications as in announcements, or whether it is also in one-on-one communication between leaders and people. It's really about using words to calm the threat and build the trust. And what we use is David Rock's SCARF model, because it shows those 5 domains of social behavior that either, if they're threatened, right, you go into threat, you go into resistance, you go into all these things that we've just talked about, what resistance looked like, or you go into reward when they are how do you call it, when you really treat, like when you build trust, when you build engagement, when you feed those, that's what the word I was looking for, when you feed those 5 domains, then you get people moving away from resistance, which what we're looking for, because that's when we move into collaboration, what you have mentioned, Roxanne, right? That's when we move into being creative. That's when when we're able to engage with what's happening, because it doesn't attack our it doesn't elicit threat responses. So the first domain is status. That is all about our relative value compared to other people. Do we feel less than, or do we feel like better than? The second one is certainty. And that is, we've already talked about that. And you can see probably already from just reading the words on here, how there are some parallels to the 5 predictable drivers that we have just seen that elicit resistance. And so the second one being certainty. People want to know, what's the bigger picture? What's going to happen? I need to know what is going on. Autonomy, we just talked about that, about loss of control. It's really how can I get a sense of what's happening? How can I make sure this is not happening to me, but it is happening with me? How can I have a choice in all of this, right? Because if our free will choice, if that is impaired, that doesn't feel good. That just inherently feels wrong. The fourth one being relatedness. That is all about how do we connect with other people? Are we in a group where we belong? And is there active like involvement? Is there engagement? Am I part of this? Am I at the root cause? It's like, am I safe? And then ultimately, the fifth domain is fairness. And fairness is all about am I treated the same? as everybody else, especially if you think about, I'm going through a reorg, like, why am I impacted? Why is this other person not impacted, right? We have the same job title. We might have similar qualifications, all that. And also, like, is there equity? Is there justice in what's happening? So that last one, fairness, we're very sensitive to whether or not something is fair or not. So addressing any of these through communication is really important. With certainty, it's so important that you're being transparent in terms of what's happening, that you share like the choices and explain why, so that people can feel like, I know what's going on. I might not like it, but at least I understand it. And I've seen that. Yeah, Madalena, go ahead.
Just a quick one regarding certainty. You said something about knowing the big picture.
Yes.
Are these two like going hand in hand, or because from my experience as a leader, not everyone is the big picture. They just need the next step. That's it.
Yes, but you even need to know what the next step is, right? And whether you say like I agree, not everybody needs the big picture, but in general, right? And here we're totally generalizing. Like you need to, like we have a need to know what is going to happen. We need to know what is the plan, right? Because often, and I've been in communications a long time, organizational announcements say there is a change. And then there is a lot of, we're not really saying anything. And the reality is like, we're going to figure it out because it happens at a global level. You cannot really know all the details. And that's what's giving people anxiety, right? And at the same time, there's always this, people have a bullshit detector. If they feel there is more and you're not telling us, that doesn't feel right. That plays into, again, that it's not fair. Like I don't really have a say in this. I don't know what's going on. So that's really where the big picture comes in, right? To provide people with where are we headed? What's going to happen? That's what's meant by this. And I've seen this firsthand when a few years ago, and that was actually before I even knew about the SCARF model, we had to, in a first round, right size our R&D department. That was when I still was in my corporate job as the head of internal communications for a medical device company. In a first step, we had to right size our R&D department. And we did that the way we would always do it. We would send out the announcement, right? Like, oh, this is what's happening, but really high level. And it wasn't great. And we learned, we were like, we want to do better. Because in a second step, and that was within a year, like we actually had to close down the whole R&D department. And the second time around, we took a different approach. The second time around, we told people, this is what's going to happen. Like, we're going to close down this department. And we gave people the big picture. Like, this is what's going to happen. And we told them, we don't know yet how we're going to do it and exactly what the timelines are and what's going to happen. But because people felt we were truly honest and open about that, we were open about the things we didn't know yet, but yet we were willing to openly communicate that, it was a totally different experience. And still now, people talk about how well that was done, even though we didn't know a lot of the answers, but because we were open and honest about it, it was perceived with a lot more, it was perceived honestly. And people realized like, oh, you know what? That's the decision. There's nothing we can do, but at least they felt they were part of it. And they were able to shape the change with the group because we consulted them. And that was a very, very, very different experience compared to the first one where we did organizational announcements as usual, right? As we've all read and received and written. So very different approach. Which that last piece, we've consulted them and we've included them in some of the decisions, brings me to the second lever, which is a co-creation, which is all about giving people a hand in the how. because that sense of autonomy, that idea of like change is happening to me, that is real. And communications alone cannot really address that. It's really the co-creation piece that is the missing piece. And often leaders think we have to involve people in the strategy, in the what. But the reality is the strategy, the what, that is often set. Like there is no wiggle room. There is nothing that you like. The decision is a decision. Like what needs to happen needs to happen. There is no room for involvement. It also often is not appropriate, right? Because we often, like I look all of you, like you're all in highly regulated environments. Like there is no let's involve people, let's sing kumbaya. That's not how it works. But there is still like some room to play in the how. And it brings me back to what I said before, that example, right? We told people this is what's going to happen and we'll figure out the how together, involve them. And a couple of years ago, I was working with Alcon, and it's an official case study, so I can say their name, I have permission. They went through a transformation for a European team of their technical service group, 200 people. They went through a centralization of their resources. Now, most of you, if not all of you, have been in global organizations. Taking resources away from countries to say you now have to go through a shared service center and a hub, not great. Not good news for the countries who have dedicated resources. So as you can imagine, like there was uproar. The strategy, what needed to happen, there was going to be like a creation of a shared service center. That was not up for this discussion, not up for debate. That was non-negotiable. But the how, we were able to bring people in. That leadership team was able to co-create the new ways of working, were able to bring up the concerns they had. They were able to voice their concerns and then come up with strategies to overcome the hurdles that they had anticipated. It changed the whole outlook. And everybody, the senior management was convinced that it was going to be a shit show, like my words, not their words, but they really thought this is such a disruption to this organization who has been working in the same way for the past 40 years. And it wasn't the case. Like they did engagement surveys afterwards. Everybody thought those results were going to plummet, and they really stayed at the same level because we were able to involve them, to give them a piece of autonomy back, to have them co-create what the how looks like, not the what, but the how. And the last piece, the third lever, is capacity. It's equipping people to shift from reactivity to creativity, right? That reactivity, when we just talked about how the brain works, that is fight and flight. When our sympathetic nervous system is going crazy because there is a lot of uncertainty and change, we are reactive because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to guarantee our survival. And that takes away from being able to collaborate with each other, to communicate with each other in the right way, to support each other, everybody talks about innovation. We're not able to really think clearly, definitely not innovate if we are in this reactive state because change is happening. But the reality is, like, we cannot change our circumstances, right? If change is happening, it's happening. If a reorg is happening, it's happening. There's nothing we can do, but we can give people the capacity. We can help them increase their capacity to move away from reactivity and get into creativity by giving them tools and practices to navigate that and like self-regulate. And we're working right now actually with a nonprofit that is member driven. They're going through a big change. They're changing their whole business model. And we're taking their leadership team who is driving the change through like our whole resilience leadership program, which is great. But even more important is the application of it and really practicing what does it mean to have more capacity. So every time we get together to a meeting, we always take a moment to like, let's breathe, or let's move, or let's just take a break to be where we are, like get out of our heads and into our bodies. And let's come back to being creative, like basically putting our prefrontal cortex back online, so that we can work together, so that we can think through this creatively, so that we can come up with the best answers and the best solutions for how we want to drive this change. And so I want to invite you to actually to breathe a little bit together. We have to breathe anyways, so we might as well do it consciously. And if this right now makes you feel like, are you kidding me? Like I signed up for this and now I have to breathe, then you're in a great place, because as I just said, we cannot control our circumstances. Things happen to us, but we can control how we respond to it. And so this is an opportunity to practice that and see, okay, if I don't really want to breathe right now, if I try, let me see what just happens. So to like simulate a little bit, well, if you are triggered right now because I asked you to breathe, you're already in that state. So I would love for you to put like on a scale from 1 to 10, like what's your stress level at? If you're like, oh, breathing, that's great. Then I invite you to think about your to-do list, or a difficult conversation you have to have, or a problem where you right now don't have a solution to. And just like check in with yourself for a moment and like, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, where am I at? And this is not to give out any marks or anything, but it's for you to just notice, where is your baseline? Where is your stress baseline? If you're maybe a little anxious about something, if you're stressed about something, or if you're being asked something to do that you don't want to do. And if you don't want to put it in a chat, you don't have to. It's just like, but make a note of it. All right. So if you're willing, like sit up a little taller in your chair. Feel comfortable. Maybe even close your eyes. Roll your shoulders back. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, let it go. Again, take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Focus on your heartbeat. Check in. Might be some tension in your face, your jaw, your neck, shoulders. Let it go, release it. Make your inhales longer. Your exhale fuller. If your mind starts wandering, bring it back to this present moment. Maybe feel your feet on the ground. Put a light smile on your face to signal to your brain that all is well, that it's safe for you to be here, independent of your circumstances. Right now, it's safe to relax, to let go. Take another breath. Let it go. One last time, your biggest breath yet. Hold it at the top of your lungs. Exhale, let it go. And check in again. On that scale from 1 to 10, where is your stress level at now? Can you feel a difference just compared to 2 minutes ago?
Yes. Yes, definitely calmer. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Just curious how you feel.
Yeah, it's nice to take a moment just to breathe during the day, because I don't think about it, like relaxing or having a few minutes just for myself.
Yeah, 100%. And you're probably speaking, like, not probably, you're speaking for everybody, right? You're speaking for everybody when you say that, Sarah. Nobody, sorry, is it Sarah or is it Sarah? Should have asked at the beginning.
Sarah, but if you're British, it's Sarah.
Okay. Nobody takes time because we're not used to it. It's typically not a habit that we during the day, but it is a superpower. It's a superpower. It's a gift that we can give ourselves to our nervous system to really activate that parasympathetic nervous system, right? That allows us to shift from reactivity into creativity, because what happens is when we're reactive, we're in a downward spiral. When we shift, when we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, when we bring our prefrontal cortex back online, we move into an upward spiral, into a spiral of creativity that allows us to be better. So it's very enticing to think, I don't have time for that. But it really is reverse thinking, because when we do take a moment to bring our prefrontal cortex back online, because we take a moment to breathe and we take a moment to relax, and just like, you can feel it in your body, we're so much better at what we do. And as leaders, the invitation is like, how can you find ways to provide that to your people? And that's why this capacity building is so important as people go through the change, because if they have the tools, if they're equipped to navigate it, it's going to go a lot more smoothly. So, yeah, those are the 3 strategies. What else? Yes, I have we have time a little bit for Q&A. Obviously, I know some of the questions you've already asked during the presentation. I have a little bit more space to create that, create more space for Q&A. And then I have 2 more things I want to share, 4 gifts, and I have an ask for you, and then I want to wrap this up with a final question. But before that, happy to open it up. Yes, Rhonda, please.
I found this very, very good exercise. Would you run the same thing in a large group, or within a change, or would you suggest other ways to move from reactivity to creativity?
You mean the breath work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we definitely. When we work with our clients, we have them breathe. We have them do all sorts of things that are very embodied. Breathing is the most accessible thing that we do. We take a lot of, we do a lot of somatic practices and getting into our bodies, right? Because ultimately, it's the body-mind connection is real. So yes, our resilient leadership training consists of a lot of somatic practices. Yeah. So breathing is super easy because it is, as I said, it's accessible and it doesn't take a lot of time. It's very effective, and everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. Whereas with other things, not everybody can do it.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about anything that I've shared? And as I said it at the beginning, right? This was not a master class on going deep into the strategies. It was more like give you some input, some food for thought to hopefully think about it a little differently, give you a new perspective. That really was the point of today.
Thank you. It's a good reminder to breathe. I speak very fast and tend to forget to breathe. I think it's more like the impact on others as well. Some people say to me, do you ever breathe? And I'm like, okay, actually, I probably don't. So it was good to be reminded to take a moment to inhale and remind myself it's good to do that.
I love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Barbara,
Yeah.
I think I'm really appreciating that, even the reminder about the need to think about capacity, and because I think we are so driven by productivity in the corporate world, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we are even acknowledging that there is a stress, and I'm thinking also about the difference of different people, and oftentimes leaders are people with a high level of resiliency, or at least high coping mechanisms, like how much they are able to stay in this creativity space is a question, but like at least they're much better managing stress, and not getting shut down, at least, right? Like, or maybe they're going more active, kind of manifesting them active in action, I'm trying to say. And then there are other people, and maybe people who are reporting to them, who have a different reactions, and sometimes they also may need, and that's why some of the things that you shared about shutting down or apathy, that's, I think, because people have different reactions, personal reactions to stress. And so I'm just also sitting with, I don't have a clear question, but I'm sitting with a question about this difference of people reactions, and to what extent and how can leaders acknowledge that and work with that difference that people have, and maybe not even because especially because they would probably have a different tolerance themselves.
Yeah, I think you answered your own question. The first step is to acknowledge and recognize as leaders that not everybody has the same threshold or the same capacity to deal with stress and change. And you said it yourself. Leaders, they are leaders because they have a high capacity, right? Because if you're not able to deal or perform in stressful situations, you're never going to get to a leadership position, because you're not going to make it. And so I think it's exactly that. It's acknowledging not everybody has the same stress capacity, and even recognizing as leaders, there's probably the ceiling. Like, there's probably still room for more, even for leaders. That yeah. Anything else? All right. Well, I have a couple more things, and then I want to let you go. I definitely want to make sure we're ending on time. The first thing being, I have 4 gives and an ask. The first give is you're going to get a recap of this conversation, and also I'm happy to share with you the slides that I shared as a reminder. The second one, an invitation to our next Insight Exchange, which is going to happen on 11/11 at 11. I didn't realize that was the case, but when I looked up when is the next one, I was like, oh, whoever scheduled that maybe might have potentially put thought into putting it on at 11/11 at 11 EST, that being. The third thing is, if you're the only one from your organization, or even if not, and you think this might be valuable to hear for your teams or anybody else, I'd be more than happy to do that for your own group as well, to share this information. And of course, if you have any questions or would like to discuss any of this in more detail, more than happy to set up a one-on-one meeting. Eileen put all of that in the chat as well. My email, like the date, the email, also linked to my Calendly link. Those of you who hate that, feel free to send an email. And then the last link here, that's my ask, is I have a quick survey. It really only takes 2 minutes, but I would love to just get a little bit of feedback, but also give you an opportunity to suggest other topics that you would like to hear about, because then we can see what we can do about that. So I would love to for you to take a moment to click on that last link to get to a survey and take a moment to share that survey. I put again on some music to give you a moment to do that right now, so you don't have to think about it afterwards. I know, out of sight, out of mind, but we have a couple minutes. That would be highly appreciated.
I seem to not be able to open the Google form. Maybe it needs to give access, public access.
You're not able to open it. That is...
Maybe it just me? Maybe others too.
Anybody? Let's see. Oh boy.
Breathe.
Is it for everyone? Nobody can access it?
Did you put it in a chat? I don't, sorry, I didn't even see
The
it.
Google form, right? Or is it?
Sorry, here.
I'm trying to get into it because it's making me log into my Google account.
Oh no,
Yeah,
we don't
same
want
here.
that.
Same here. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want that. Goodness gracious. I thought I had all the settings figured out ahead of time.
Do you want to drop the questions in the chat?
Could
We
do
can.
that. Sure. Well, it's an overall rating. So strange.
Okay.
Never mind. You know what? I tried to figure it out and I send it in my follow-up email.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. Anyways. All right. No survey. No survey.
It
Good.
happens. It's okay.
It happens. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So then the last thing I want to just offer a moment to like end out, or like end where we started, with a moment to reflect on, like, what do you want to remember from this insight exchange? What is something that you thought was insightful, something that you want to start implementing, something that was most valuable? I'd love to hear about that. What do you want to remember? Yes, Madeline.
So I guess 2 things. First of all, thank you very much. Very useful. The first thing is around that big picture. I never thought about fighting uncertainty with the big picture thing. I have other, tools to deal with that. So thank you. And second, I personally appreciate you as a speaker very much. Very well done. You are very clear, and I think you engage with us very well. So for me, this was indeed a masterclass in this sense. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Great to remember. Resistance is just energy put towards preserving the status quo. Yes. Importance of moving from reactivity to creativity. Yes. Excellent. Scarf model. Yes. That's amazing, right? Isn't this like a freaking game changer? I loved when I learned about that. Have to run to another meeting. Great session. Thanks. Yes. Great to meet you, Sahira. Thank you for being here. Awesome. All right. All right. Okay. What else? Ooh, okay. Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was just something connected to the big picture.
Yes.
With Madalena.
It's from
Madalena. Sorry,
Madalena.
I said Madeline. Madalena mentioned that you don't need to read it, Barbara. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, good. Eileen, was that meant for me? Oh, take a form. Okay, good. Another stab at the form. Let's see if it works. You don't have to do it now, but like maybe if at least if you could try
I
to
still
see if
get
it works.
access.
Still not?
You need access is saying.
Yeah, still have to sign in.
So strange. Okay.
That's okay. We'll do it after.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Never mind.
Yeah,
Good.
send it to us.
Well, I want to make sure I let you go. I want to be on time. Thank you so much for showing up today, for actively participating, for sharing your perspectives, and yeah, being active participants. And
Thank you.
I hope
Yeah.
to see you again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank nochmal. Grüß aus Basel.
Oh, danke schön.
Barbara.
Danke, Roxanne.
Vielen Dank.
Tschüss.
Bis nächstes
Tschüss.
Mal.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.